प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं। प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्।
The breakers are happening because the depth of the sea is coming down. If you find a sudden cut sea where it is not shallow, the beach side is not shallow, you will not find so much of breakers. The huge waves will come and hit against the shore. The waves are breaking because the depth of the sea is not there which can contain the waves. Like that, if you are not able to contain suffering, you have to increase the depth of your mind. The more the depth of your mind, you will be able to contain more suffering. That is why the knower's suffering is much more than other people. They are both bliss, suffering, everything is much more. They have to increase the capacity, the depth of their mind to contain them. এত প্রেম আমি কথা পাবো না তোমার হৃদয়ে রাখিতে না. That we ask God to come and sit in our heart. But God is such a dimension, if the heart remains small, chicken-hearted person, how can God sit there? We will not. That is why when the bliss you get, you become ecstatic and you lose control over yourself. Initially, in spiritual life also, the bliss makes you out of control. You become ecstatic, you get out of control. But as you grow in sadhana more and more, even much, much more bliss also will be very peaceful. You will be able to contain everything without getting out of control, or you will not become ecstatic as you used to become earlier by little bliss. The bliss will become greater and greater in depth and vastness, and everything will be contained without any ecstatic move. You should know this. People, when they become ecstatic, they think that this is the highest of spirituality. No. The depth has to become so much that everything can be contained there. The dukkha, the sukha of extreme level. As much is the capacity, so much you can contain. So, that is to explain the Sangha I was saying. No? So, when Sangha is not there, then we can take suffering as well as happiness without getting moved by it. So he says, Dhyayato, I was telling you that Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsah Sangasteshu Upajayate. The Sangha is generated by constant thinking about the Vishaya. There I made the statement, no, it is not the constant thinking of the Vishaya, but when the thinking of the Vishaya is linked to my happiness and suffering, linked to my ego, then only it produces the Sangha. Otherwise it doesn't. You may think of a machine very well, but don't link your happiness with that. Nothing will happen. You will be able to do the work very well. To do the work very well, you have to think about it very well. Suppose in doing the ashram construction, sometimes I will not sleep in the night. Throughout, in the bed also I am thinking, how will the bars be given, what will be the design, where will be the corner, and so many things. It was so engrossing that I won't sleep. But suppose it doesn't come, or the building falls or so, I won't get affected by that. Or the building is taken away by the government, as in this CIRD it was about to happen. So it is not the thinking about anything, that Vishaya Chinta does not really spoil. When the Shastras say it is the Dhyayato Vishayan, the Vishaya Dhyana, it means the Vishaya means the enjoyment of the object, not the object. This is the point here. That we are thinking of the object, thinking that I will enjoy that, or we are anxious about suffering that. It is the Vishaya Dhyana is not just thinking about the object. Thinking of the object will do nothing. When that thinking is related to my indulgence, my involvement, my enjoyment, bhoga, the simple word is bhogecha, then it creates the sangha. Suppose when there was no mobile, will you have desire for a mobile? Because the mobiles have come and newer models are coming. So when you have a mobile also, you think of the newer model. You see first of all in the advertisement, or maybe it is more when some friend is using it, you see the convenience of using it. So you start thinking and thinking, then one day you think that why not I also get it. I may not have enough money now, but I will somehow get some money and get of this model also. Same about the car also. So it is not just the thinking of the mobile, it is the pinning of that thought with my enjoyment, that when I get that, I will enjoy it. That is developing the kama, generating the desire for that object. So, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha. The kama, the desire for the object is coming from that sangha, which by repeated Vishaya Dhyana. When we say Vishaya Dhyana, it is not just the meditating on the object, but meditating the object with the idea of enjoying it, with the bhogecha. Bhogecha means bhoktum ichha. That means the wish to enjoy it, the desire to enjoy it. Desire to enjoy it. Clear है? इतना बताने का जरूरत है. So, he says, Mukta Sangha Samacharet. So, when does it become Yajna? When you do it, Mukta Sangha. It's not generating this Sangha. Then it becomes Yajna. You do anything, but do it with the attitude of Yajna, not with the attitude of enjoyment. Bhogecha. This is a very simple. Actually, the whole spiritual sadhana is getting freed of the Katri Bhoktri Bhava. That Bhogecha and the ego, we say that Karta Bhava, and I did it, I did that, or I have done something sinful, or I have to do it, I have to do that. This Katri Bhava and Bhoktri Bhava, that I want to enjoy this, that constantly thinking of enjoying, or if I don't get the thing of enjoyment, I will suffer, what will happen, all those. So, this is what the real yajna is. Now suppose you are doing something with a selfish interest. If you renounce that selfish part of it and make it a yajna, is it not pavanani? Is it not purifying your mind? Immediately you will feel the purifying effect inside. It is experiential. You will feel the relief, because this desire is always causing a stress inside, a tension inside, there is a pressure inside. The moment that is renounced, you will feel how pavanani it is, how purifying it is, how relieving it is, how liberating it is, because you will get liberated from the bondage created by the action, whatever you are doing. That bondage created by the action, that bondage is a stress in the mind, it is constricting the mind, it is holding the mind. So, that is how the yajna becomes pavanani. Similarly, dana and tapas. How dana becomes pavanani? In the ritualistic yajna also, after each yajna there used to be a great dana, gifting ceremony, where the person who has done the yajna will give off everything. Why? Because we have always the tendency to hold. That also creates tension in us. That also binds us. Because when things go, we are not able to take it, we are suffering, we are anxious of losing things. That has to go. So dana is actually forcing us to taste the joy of dana, joy of dispossession. Whenever you practice dispossession, there is a lot of joy of dispossession. So dana is forcing us, when we are sharing with others, we are giving things to others. And at the cost of my property, that is, even the king used to become a pauper by the dana. Say Ashwamedha Yaga. There's lot of things involved. If I go on speaking all that, I don't know where I will go. The Ashwamedha Yaga, there was lot of economy involved in it also. The king, when the coffer gets full, the minister would come and tell the king that, Maharaj, our coffer has become full. You decide whether you would like to do Ashwamedha Yaga or similar Yaga, whatever, depending on the power of the emperor, how big he is and how much of money he has. Now, in the Ashwamedha Yaga, the preparation was supposed to be almost for an year. 1 year of preparation is necessary. The description in the Vedas are given that what all have to be done. Whatever artwork, theatre, music, puja, so many things, whatever the society is good for the society, only what is good for the society, everything will have an occasion to express in that yaga. So all kinds of pandal making, this coming, that coming, informing people from all sides, they will come, they have to be hosted, they have to be fed, all the arrangements have to be made. Our SBTSs, we have to make 3 months arrangement. Our Bhagavata Satram in Tricur, 3 months of arrangement we have to make to host about 1,000 people or so. So all those arrangements have to be made, and all kinds of art, manifestation, everything would be there. So what will happen? The king will have to pay for all these things. So the money is getting distributed in the society. The money who had got accumulated in the king's coffer used to get distributed in the society. And particularly teachers and priests, those who do not have otherwise income, they have to be gifted ultimately. Those who have those who are paid for their craft and all, they will get through their payment. But there are people, those who are not accepting any payment, like Brahmanas performing the teaching and other things. They don't take any remuneration. They live only on the gift given by the king. So after the yaga is over, then comes the dana ceremony, where all these people and others also, many, everything will be given off so that the king becomes a pauper. Kalidasa describes the Raghuvamsha king, the good kings. After the yaga is over, the gifting ceremony is over, a sannyasin had come. Generally the sannyasin will be honored with golden plate and all, and some fruits in that. The Raja did not have anything. Kalidasa says that with a mrit patra, with a mud pot, he is pouring water on the feet of the Mahatma. That means the king has given off everything. Such was the good kings. Such were the good kings. So, this dana is very important. That dana gives us the joy of disposition. And once you get the joy of it, you would like to do it also. So every time you share your property with others, it gives a great relief to your mind. By possessing, you will get pressurized. You will become stressed. By dispossessing, we get great joy of relief. Now, last is tapas. Tapas means austerity. Tapas is always pavanani. Why? Tapas means discipline. That given to ourselves, our sense organs, our tendencies are always towards indulgence, sense indulgence, frittering away their energy in just bhoga, in just enjoyment. So by that what happens? We become slave to the object of enjoyment, to the world. Do you get it? We like the food, we take whenever we want, we are taking it. When the food is not available, that food is not available, we get annoyed. We lose our self-centeredness, we get angry also, perhaps on the server. That means we become slave to that. Not only about food, about everything. The moment the situation is not congenial, we lose our self-centeredness. Somebody close to us, maybe friend, suddenly abusing us, we get all the more annoyed and start reacting to that by return abuses. That means we lost our self-centeredness. Can we not hold on and see that how you never speak like that? Has anything gone wrong today? What has happened to you? You are speaking so much abusively to me. Should we not behave like that? But we are not able to, because we have become slave to the situation. Slave to the object, slave to the situation. So tapas means whenever we work against our natural tendency, the lower tendency of frittering our self-energy, that is getting into the indulgence, various sense indulgence and other things. We have to be disciplined. Any discipline is a tapas. Suppose the boy wants to play and he doesn't want to study. So we put him under a tapas of forcing him to study for some times of the day. Suppose he goes on playing, then the discipline will not be there. He will never study, he will never have any knowledge. When he has studied and when he has learned the language and he reads the novels and all, then if you remind that, is this the greater freedom? You have got the freedom into the world of literature. Earlier you were only playing and you considered that to be the freedom. If you had not undergone the discipline of learning the language, would you have got this freedom? He would not have got. So any tapas gives us an inner freedom. Any tapas will give us an inner freedom. It is discipline. By discipline, our self-energy gets retained and we feel powerful, we feel strong inside. That is why even fasting, we are given to food. One day if I don't get food, we get so much of headache and we get so agitated. In my childhood, whenever I would get hungry, I used to get agitated. Not childhood, maybe younghood. Then after going to the hostel, I got used to without food. The canteen will close down every other day. So I started living on bread and butter. Got used to all kinds of food. The stomach got spoiled, but the mind became all right. So any discipline, restraint, fasting, etc., these are all called tapas. That is normally whatever we are given to do, if we hold on from that, that is the tapas. Is it clear? Now, if we go into the detail further, which I will not so much, in the 17th chapter, all these three are discussed in according to Sattvika Yajna, Rajasika Yajna, Tamasika Yajna. Danam, Sattvika Danam, Rajasika Danam, Tamasika Danam. Tapas, Sattvika Tapas, Rajasika Tapas and Tamasika Tapas. So Yajna you will find 17.11, 12, 13. That three kinds of Yajna. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, three guna. Tapaha you will find 17.14 to 19, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is all tapas, but no, the last three. 17, 18, 19. The Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, tapas is coming on 17, 18, 19. And dana of three kinds coming on 20, 21, 22. In between that 14, 15, 16, that is three kinds of tapas they have defined. That I will go into. That is important. Not today, tomorrow I will take it up. So that is important. But then again, the three kinds of divisions according to the three gunas, they are also given. But these three divisions of yajna is about the ritualistic yajna they have mentioned. That is how to do the sattvika yajna, how the yajna becomes rajasika, how the yajna becomes tamasika. There it is the Vedic ritualistic yajna. So we are not much interested. Still, it has its eternal significance because of what is sattvika, what is rajasika, what is tamasika. For tapas and dana, it is as well applicable even now. Even the jajna concept will be available. But the jajna which is defined in Bhagavad Gita as anything done tadartham, without the desire, that doesn't have any sattvika, rajasika, tamasika. That is beyond all that, transcendental. When you do without desire, it is liberating by itself. There is no question of sattvika, rajasika, tamasika. It is beyond that, transcendental. Nishchayam shinu me tatra
निश्चयं शृणु मे तत्र
त्यागे भरत सत्तमा
त्यागे भरतसत्तमा
त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र
त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र
त्रिविधः सम्प्रकीर्तितः
त्रिविधः सम्प्रकीर्तितः
यज्ञदानतपः कर्म
यज्ञदानतपः कर्म
न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत्
न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत्
यज्ञो दानं तपश्चैव
यज्ञो दानं तपश्चैव
पावनानि मनीषिणाम्.
पावनानि मनीषिणाम्.
So these are always pavanani, they are always purifying. So what is the phala there? These are also karma, jajna, dana, tapas, they are all karma. So when you do it properly for a seeker, then also you are thinking about the phala. What is the phala? Purification. Purification is the phala there. That we are still looking for, we are doing this with the idea of purifying the mind, getting rid of the desires, getting rid of the sangha, getting rid of selfishness, all that. That is why in our Shastras, Satsanga is called that Yathavarundhe Satsangam Sarva Sangapaho Himam. That all the sangas are binding us, they create bondage. But the sangha fostered towards the Sat, they relieve us from all other sanghas. That is also a sangha. But taking away from all the worldly objects, that sangha is towards the Sat, the ultimate truth. That sangha will remove all other sanghas. When all other sanghas are removed, this sangha also becomes meaningless. You became what you are. The fool, zero, big duck, Paramahamsa. Baba used to say, Paramahamsa means big duck. Duck has the meaning of zero also. If there is any question, otherwise we will just chant for some time. How to attain the mind silent state? It's a big topic. See, there are quite a few ways of attaining the silence, but the important question is, why do you want to attain the silent state? Suppose you attain the silent state for a while, say half an hour or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so. Then you come back and again you have a noisy mind state. So, what do you really want? That is the main thing. Of course, that attaining the silence is a step in the process of ultimate Brahmajnana, or say, to attain the ultimate fulfillment. That is, one way is to just try to attain the silent state. Another is to go on, as yesterday we were discussing, that go on purifying the mind by changing the mindset, Bhava Samshuddhi. Yesterday we discussed in great detail the Bhava Samshuddhi, Tapo Manasa Muchyate, that the mental tapas. Maunam is there in the first, but finally it leads to Bhava Sam. In that shloka, that's 17 point. Kitna tha? 17.16. Manat prasad. This is what is the tapo manasa muchyate. This is the manasika tapas. Manat prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhiri. That all these things, prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha, they all should lead to finally the bhava samshuddhi. That means the temperament of the mind, the mindset, the constituent of the mind, the inherent parameters of the mind, they have to be purified. It is further than maunam, than silence. So it is better to work that way so that every day you progress towards something. If silence you attain one day, next day you may not attain, for another year you may not attain. And by that, whether you are progressing or not also you will never know. If you attain and get the taste of it and then you cannot attain, then you will be dejected also. It is better to purify the mind, and when the mind becomes peaceful, when you have nothing to do, automatically the mind will become silent. So generally in our parampara, otherwise also, it is said that our Baba used to say, Baba's Guru's Guru, Narayana Tirtha Dev also used to say that Dhyan korte hai na, dhyan hoy. Dhyan korte hai na, dhyan hoy. That means you don't have to meditate. Meditate will done. When the mind gets purified, automatically when you have something to do, the mind will be focused on that. You have nothing to do, the mind will be silent. And also you don't need the silence. When the mind becomes so lovable, comfortable for you, why do you look for no thoughts? The thoughts are so good, so enriching, so fulfilling, that you will never think of getting rid of the thoughts. Because now the thoughts are not enriching to you, they are not comfortable. You are looking for a thoughtless state. When the thoughts become enriching, comfortable, noble, then you will not look for the silence. Now still, if you want silence, then Patanjali Yoga Darshana, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, they have given 3 very prominent steps towards it. Because the mind has to be silent there. So how to attain the silence? He says, the first step is Sukha Asanam. Sukha Asanam. That means you have to sit comfortably. Whether you sit or lie, if you can lie also, but you should not fall asleep. You have to sit comfortably, whether it is on Padmasana or Bhadrasana or on a chair, because primary purpose is to forget the body. Suppose you sit very straight in an asana and your back pains or neck pains and your mind is always focused on the body, then naturally you will not be able to forget the body. The mind will not become silent. So Sukhasana is necessary for forgetting the body.